Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for. In my former life, I was an insider as much as anybody else. And I knew what it's like, and I still know what it's like to be an insider. It's not bad. Not bad. Now I'm being punished for leaving the special club and revealing to you the terrible things that are going on having to do with our country. Because I used to be part of the club, I'm the only one that can fix it. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again. Because you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to take us out, and it's not going to work. Not going to work. Not going to work. It's not going to work. We're just getting started. The drug cartels are waging war in America, and we will destroy the cartels. You have no choice. That's an army. And I'll use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries immediately. Never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom, because I will never let them take away your freedom. I won't. They want to silence me, because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they are not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in their way. I always will. And I will fully protect and uphold our great and very important under siege Second Amendment. We will protect. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech, and I will secure our elections. We will secure our elections. If we don't, we are a country in trouble. Our goal will be one day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. Very simple. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school at all, pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. When I was coming down the escalator with Melania, I was already under investigation because they saw how well I was doing in the polls. And it just got worse and worse. And we caught them. We said they were spying on our campaign. It turned out to be true. They had the fake dossier. That turned out to be true. It was paid for by the Democrat Party. It was all fiction. All of these things happened. Impeachment hoax number one, impeachment hoax number two. I've been treated very badly, and I've won every single time. When you say, do I sleep? I sleep. I sleep. Because I truly feel that in the end, we're going to win. I think we're going to win an election the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. I don't think anything's going to stop it. Nothing's going to stop it.
River announces Bitcoin interest on cash. Now, US dollars in your River account will earn you high-yield interest rate that can be paid in Bitcoin. With the price of groceries, mortgage, and tuition on a steep rise, people are now looking at a retirement age of 80 instead of 60. And that's all because dollars are losing value at a record pace. The challenge is finding a way to hold on to your dollar while still getting ahead. That's where River Bitcoin comes in. River Bitcoin's interest on cash protects your dollars with FDIC insurance while offering you the option to recap the potential gains of Bitcoin. Over the past 2 years, you would have earned 2 times the rate of most high-yield savings accounts and 16 times the rate of national average savings account with Bitcoin interest on cash. Get started at badlandsmedia.tv/river. Move your cash to River today and start earning real interest rate with Bitcoin. That's badlandsmedia.tv/river. Experience the miracle of a God-given first responder for your health and an ally in your body that fights everything from minor ailments to major health threats. That ally is your immune system. At Pet Club 24/7, we harness the ancient wisdom of nature with our exclusive potent strain of medicinal mushroom, revered for thousands of years for their immune-supporting properties that are extremely safe with no addictions or overdoses, no side effects, and no interactions with medications. Transform how you manage your health with our all-natural products that help Pet Club change the world one pet and one person at a time. Elevate your pet's health game and yours with our natural, time-tested solution and explore how we are redefining wellness for both pets and people. Transform how you manage health with our all-natural products and help Pet Club change the world one pet and one person at a time. Elevate your pet's health game and yours with our all-natural, time-tested solution and explore how we are redefining wellness for both pets and people. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/petclub now. That's badlandsmedia.tv/petclub, treating pets and their parents better.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Culture of Change. Palin Republican says Abby commercials are the best. I agree. And I'm super glad that we have your commercials to do, because
it makes it nice. It makes it nice.
Yeah, my voice is a little rough.
Oh man, after I go to Gart's, every time I either lose my voice entirely or it's like half broken, like raw. I think it's because you just talk a lot.
Usually by the last day of Gart, I feel sick, like cold sick, like need to take ivermectin sick. I don't feel sick, but boy, am I tired. We got in at like 8 this morning, 8:11. We were supposed to get in at 9, so we were really early. Tailwind, I guess, is how they account for that. So my husband hadn't even left the house yet, and it's almost an hour. And he was accounting for luggage and everything, so he wouldn't have to circle too many times. So we just ended up taking an Uber.
Nice.
I'm not sitting here waiting. I need to lay down.
Take me home.
But what a great time. And we're going to go ahead and bring on our guest, because our guest has been at Gart. We're going to talk a little bit about Gart, but then we're going to talk about the incredible third installment of the amazing series, Constance Charleston and the Bombastic Bafflegab. It is, I think, my favorite of the 3 books so far. The themes are citizen journalism and propaganda and the power of words and the power of fear. There's pandemics in there. It's pretty crazy, pretty awesome. I really, really enjoyed it. Welcome to the show, Julie Lavender. So happy to have you back.
It's good to be here. I'm excited to talk. If I can 3 in the morning where I am.
Yes, Julie's in Switzerland, and she sent me pictures of where she is. The most beautiful place, one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
So 3 o'clock in the morning?
It's hard to feel bad for you.
Yeah. No, I don't expect you to feel bad for me. I just
it is 3 a.m. for you.
I got to make sure I'm all there. But we have this wonderful opportunity. You offered me to do an interview about each book, and we sort of had this pacing, like there was one a month here and a month here, and there was something that is so exciting to me about doing that. I thought, dang, I'm getting out of bed. I don't care what happens. This is worth getting. So thank you.
Yeah. I'm so excited to talk about this book and to talk about the themes of it. But Julie, you've been to Gart. I think you were at which Gart were you? Irvine?
Well, I was at the first 2. I was at Epic Threads 1 and 2.
Okay.
And I was a speaker at both of those. And then Gart, South Carolina.
Yeah. Myrtle, that's the one it was.
Yep. Yeah, we had a good conversation for a while. That's when you were telling me about your books. And I just love the outline. And like, I'm so sorry to say I have not read them yet, but I do have them because you did send me an amazing package. By the way, I love the covers of the books.
Yeah,
It's nice
and
quality.
throughout, like the pictures
Yeah.
throughout.
Mm-hmm.
They're the quality of the books. They're well constructed, good page turners. And Abby, you're gonna love them. You're
Yes.
gonna love the
Yes.
story.
I got to
It's
dive
hard
into
to
them.
read these days. Like reading is like going to physical therapy or something. Something
Oh,
you go, I'm going to be so glad when I go. But life really has stolen a lot of our reading capacity. So I have to make pointed effort, to read as a way to nourish my soul anymore.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be worth it when you do, Abs.
Yeah,
Awesome.
reading is an escape for me. And these books especially are such a great escape because they're so relevant to the things that we're facing and specifically that our kids are facing in the institutions, in the culture, in the entertainment that they're being served up. Very, very relevant themes. But the universe of Greystone Heights really sucks you in. Um, so we're going to talk about that. But I see a bunch of people in the chat that were at GART, and Lulu1214 is, I mean, we named, so Abby, you need to know this. You missed the election results. Cam has been elected mayor of Badlands unanimously. You voted too.
Oh.
And no, you can't check.
Oh. Okay. That's
You
fine.
don't get to verify. This is my
I
favorite
trust you
joke.
girls.
I think because it's an election fraud joke, I think it's funnier than everybody else. But yeah, just a great time. The thing I love so much about Garth that I think makes it different than any other type of event out there is that everybody that's there is pouring into each other. Like we're that just I leave with my cup filled, and also I'm exhausted, right?
Yeah.
But the net effects of it is like, all right, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep info warrioring. We're gonna keep trudging through and defeating. I mean, it's better now that we're building the golden age, and I love.
Oh, exactly. It's so beautiful. You're right. It's meeting the people and making that connection because, there's the digital connection and that's cool and everything. But when you actually meet those people, you're building like a strong network basically across the country or the world. Because we've had many people at GARTS that have come from like Australia and Britain. So, like, bring it on, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, love it. It's like the best feeling to be at one. And I do liken it to camp, like what you're saying, Ash. It's exhausting but you leave knowing a bunch of new friends. And I always have a bunch of cards people gave me and phone numbers. And like, sounds like a phone numbers. I'm like, who is this? Okay, I got to text him. But yeah, it's wonderful.
And it's just there's so much of that, and the convert because of the way the event is constructed. And this time we did it a little bit differently. Instead of having however many 8 or whatever panels we have of like 4 to 5 people, we had pairings. I think Cam was the only one that went twice. Everybody else just had one pairing and one panel, which was a lot less time for us to be on stage, which meant like a lot more time for us to be engaging and interacting with everybody that was there. It was also, I think, one of the smallest ones in terms of tickets that were available. The venue was smaller and stuff. And, that I really like the small ones. I like the big ones too. And I think Deadwood is going to be the biggest one. That we've done to date. And John said today on Daily Herald, he didn't even think it was going to be close, that it's going to be significantly larger. I'm excited for that. Deadwood is such a blast. But the small ones are great too, because you get so much more time. It's not like you're just having one conversation with people, but you're having, you're building a relationship the whole weekend as you engage and react to the people are reacting to the panels and things that were said, and you go deeper in conversations. I just love the experience so much. Moy Brady says, how did it go with G? Ash 1776. I had a blast. G had a blast. We talked at the bar after that that panel where poor Chris and Brian, like I was mad at myself because we were supposed to talk about the courts, and then when G first gave his opening remarks, he's like, the courts don't matter kind of thing, and I got sucked into it. I was mad at myself about that, but we had a great discussion. But he and I talked, later into the night about the same ideas. We're having a blast, but the conflict is tough for some people. I do read the chat.
I
don't
like,
always
I like
don't always
to agree to
respond, but I
disagree.
do read the chat.
How are you
Yeah.
finding the dynamic of as this whole conservatives and the people who are involved in this movement are not followers, in the same way.
Yeah.
They're not little lemmings that are going along. So one of the hardest things about being the larger us is people who just have a hard time playing nice in the sandbox and staying focused on the mission and want to be right about everything, And I think that in some ways that's very exciting. But when you're trying to build, like you said, a golden age, which is it's interesting to watch people sort of self-destruct in a way, or that struggle, like you said, those conflicts, or what's it like now? And since I noticed some of that at the GART I was at, but
yeah. So I think one of the things that I think about when and the number one panel that was requested was for G Money and I to fight.
Let's
And
go.
when we both got there, both factions were like really looking forward to the battle kind of thing, But I think it's important because G Money and I like each other, we're friends and we like each other, but we disagree about stuff, and we model that it's okay to disagree and be friends. Somebody came up to me one of the nights, it was like, you and G Money are kayfabe. And we're really not. It's not fabricated for entertainment value. Like I literally got sucked into his bullshit and the sabotaged the panel as a result, like it's happening real time. But because I disagree, like I've talked about my best friend before that I went to Italy with last year. Like, she's a radical leftist. She has radical ideas about how things should be, and a big collectivist, and takes a village kind of thing. And we've disagreed for the 25 years that we've been friends. It's longer than that. It makes me feel really old to do that math. We're not doing that. But that's what society needs more of. We should be able to disagree
100%.
and to battle it out on ideas, and not it's not personal attacks. The one thing that was funny is like when G Money at that one point said, like, women are too masculine and women shouldn't have to work kind of thing. I don't know, Abby, if you caught that. Julie, I don't know if you were watching.
Yes.
Yeah, totally understandable. But, like, the thing is if you, any of these guys, when you're attacking me for being a woman, I've won the argument on the idea, because you're resorting to an ad hominem attack. So come at me, bro.
Come at me, bro.
But yeah, it was funny. Burning Bright and CanCon were doing their thing on Sunday morning. I came in and sat next to Chris Paul, and I was like, all right, who's winning? And I'm like, it's not everything is a contest. But
it can be, and that's okay. But yeah, just to I respond to what you guys are saying. The agreeing to disagree, I think that's the coolest thing about Badlands, is that we are showing you can do that and be friends. Because what the left wants people to think is you have to have your own opinions and you have to fight till the death. And I'm a freaking liberal and I'm going to scream in your face. Like, we don't have to do that. We can be like, I have a different opinion.
We all have to line up and adhere to the, statement of faith, to fit in, and I find that super refreshing. And I find strong male people, smart, thoughtful males, very exciting to be around, actually. And I've noticed that at GART, but there's also the ego thing. I was saying, you just like, it's a thing, but we need strong egos, and men need strong egos. But it's funny to sort of sit back and watch it play out with some of the characters, some of the guys.
Well, I was thinking, this is the dynamic. It's a group of a lot of free thinkers. We're all truthers. So we're all based on, I'm going to discover what I'm going to figure out. I don't say my truth because it kind of sounds silly. I know there's one truth, but we're all independent. And that's why there's so much of this, is because we don't want to be led around like how the people are still asleep. they want leaders because they don't want to think for themselves. So it's a different dynamic, but I think we can work it out. We just got to show we can ruffle each other's feathers a little bit and not get too feisty.
Yeah.
Ash.
The feisty's good too. Because it's good.
Feisty's
Like
good.
I mean, they're are we all like we're not just gonna all stroke each other and cheerlead the same idea, right? That's
true.
boring. It's boring. And some of these things are really important. Some of these ideas that we're talking about, the train is barreling down the tracks towards Brave New World. And right now is the time that we have to weigh in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, no, that was great. I think of the conversations that, that I wasn't involved in, I think Matt Arrett and Chris Paul's discussion was one of my favorites. I haven't had a ton of exposure to Matt's content before. I've watched Breaking History a couple times, but listening to him and getting to know him and talk to him and everything was really great. Really based Canadian.
Nice.
Yeah.
We love our Canadians.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really close to where we're at.
We needed you there, Abby. We need more females.
I know. Well, next time I will be there.
Yeah, that was great. I'm trying to think. We did the dance party again, which was fun. Photo booth. We didn't have the like hats and props for this photo booth though, but the photo booth was still cool.
Yeah, and you guys were standing in front of the background, right?
Yeah,
they
had a Plymouth, like the red carpet kind of thing with the Plymouth background thing. Yeah, that was very cool. Shout out to Cheryl and Amy on that. I'm trying to think of what else. And then Caleb's 21st birthday occurred.
How'd that go?
How'd it go,
Mama Bear?
It was special. Well, first of all, I feel incredibly fortunate that my 21-year-old wants to spend his 21st birthday with me/us, right?
Yeah.
And he had a blast. We talked the bouncer into letting him in, but he wouldn't drink until midnight on Friday, and the guy watched him like a hawk. Which is good. So we pumped him full of water, made him drink a bunch of water. And then by the time he turned 21 at midnight, everybody was there, and
he was in the bathroom probably.
Yeah.
Was everybody like shot? Were you like, bro?
Well, there was like a tray brought over, and the bar closed at 12:30. So it was a lot of alcohol in a condensed period of time. And I think he would have been fine, except when my back was turned, he went and got in the hot tub with Ghost. And the hot tub is not good after you've had a ton of alcohol. And so he was in a lot of pain the next day. But you know what? That's how you learn. Shout out to Uncle Ghost.
Oh my gosh. That sounds like a fun night. I did miss out.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the next one up is Deadwood. Deadwood tickets are on sale now for Plymouth ticket holders, whether you were in person or virtual. If you had a Plymouth ticket, you can get your GART tickets now. As I said, it's going to be the biggest one. I think it's also expected to sell out. It is such a special location in Deadwood. Abby and I were talking before the show about there's like a Wild West shootout in the street every day. And Abby's like, I never saw them shoot him. I always showed up when he was dead.
He was every time we came out, there was a dude on the ground and everybody's all dressed in this outfit. There was like even smoke in the air one time. I'm like, what just happened? They're like, oh, no, they do this every night. I'm like,
yeah,
I never saw it though. Dang it.
I just kind of see it in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, but with like, with what is it? What do you?
Was it a reenactment though of like a guy?
Like, yeah.
Okay, I should know who it is. It was like a gambler,
a duel.
Something.
That's
it was a duel.
That's the word I was trying to figure out. It's like LA, but with a proper duel.
I love it.
There's a karaoke bar in Deadwood. There's an outdoor concert venue that when we were there in last August, it's a bunch of different bands there, but there was a couple of Christian music bands. That was the other thing, is it's incredibly conservative in South Dakota, which was amazing being there and then going. So we were driving back. I drove back with Kitty back home to Colorado after Deadwood. We drove through South Dakota, through the little bit of Wyoming, and stopped for gas and stuff in Wyoming. And the lady behind the counter is teasing us. She's like, "You want a bag? They're free," knowing that we're going back into communist Colorado. And but it is nice to be in that area. Then you got Mount Rushmore, you've got the Cosmos Mystery area. Such a cool event. So that's happening in August, and I think that tickets are going on sale for Deadwood for everyone. I think John said earlier today on his show that's happening on Friday.
Oh, that's fun. Sweet. It was great.
Yeah.
I remember the food was great. The time was great. Perfect venue.
The
There was
venue is
horses in the
super
streets,
cool.
guys,
Yeah.
like pulling
Yeah.
like carts. It was so amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. All right, let's talk about the bombastic baffle gab. So,
All
Julie,
right.
we're in a new time slot. A lot of people might not have heard about the universe of the Amazings. So, set up for people. What is this story? Who are these characters?
Okay, so my characters, the Folsom family, live in a town called Greystone Heights, and everyone in the entire town is colorblind except for them. They have lost the ability to see color because they have conformed to something called the prescribed order. Everybody is conformed to the order or the prescribed order operation, which Mrs. Folsom calls the poo. So they conform to the poo and they lose their ability to see color. Now, granted, folks, this is for kids 10 to 14,
Yeah.
but as you'll find out, adults love it too.
I really do.
And so everyone's lost the ability to see color, and they live in this gray, colorless. They wear color gray. They think gray. They accept gray. But the Folsom family sees in vibrant color because they interact with a supernatural realm called wonder. And because of that, they won't conform because they know that there's more, and they see it and they feel it. And it starts with their daughter wanting to kind of go to school with the other kids because what's happening in the gray, and I want to make friends and do all those things that are, common themes for related to peer pressure and individuality and that sort of thing within for education, for example. Those are common themes for kids going, in that age range. But it is so much more than this coming of age pressure story related to relationships. I'm laying the foundation in book 1 for the whole idea of what happened, who's behind the prescribed order, and what does it cost and to conform. What do you gain? What do you lose? Because this family has no idea that the fact that they won't conform makes them the public enemy number 1 for the elders of the order, who want complete control of everything. And they stand in the way of that. And so there's a lot of deep metaphoric thinking. It surprises me when people aren't able to see some of these things, and they want to just simplify. Well, she's a girl who just wants to fit in and make a friend, and it's about homeschooling or not homeschooling. I'm like, no. It's about so much more. And so we take them from in their first struggle, dealing with betrayal and manipulation of education and family struggles to let the daughter grow and make her own decisions, into book 2, where then we begin to deal with the abuse of science. Because when the elders of the order can't get control of Constance, the girl who kind of is woven throughout the story, her brother Chance goes nuts because he realizes they're perverting the science fair in the school. They're perverting the science fair and setting it up so there's a certain outcome. Folks, Pfizer has sponsored the science fair, so we're going to make sure Pfizer gets a good outcome,
Right.
kind of
I
thing
love
with
the
their
parallel.
trials, right?
And in the science fair, the kids were incentivized to prove the central narrative.
Exactly.
And Constance's brother is like, well, the central narrative is fake.
Dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb. He literally says it's dumb, but it's fake. This isn't real. And they're becoming more and more of, in this book, we are introduced to the term dissidents. Kids reading this book are introduced to the term dissidents, and the state is labeling them dissidents at this point. But in book 1, she that Constance decides to go to school. She's like, what are they doing up there? What are they doing up there in that building? I want to see what they're doing. Why am I not seeing what all the other kids are doing? I want to be like the other kids.
Right.
And then in the second book, the one of the twins gets involved, Chance gets involved, and we have the science and set up the black hole aspect, because that's the premise for
Exactly.
this book.
So the elders of the order realized that they didn't succeed in getting control of Constance in book 1, and therefore her family. So they are moving behind the scenes to try to influence her and her family so they can get this pesky Falsum clan to conform, and so they'll have complete control. And they don't achieve that in book 1. So there's a need to create something that's going to convince Constance that the belief in wonder, which is what really motivates and enthralls her family, that this belief is stupid, that it's not scientific, it's not rational. And so they're working very hard to take apart the pieces of the realm of wonder that influences them and makes them so different, you see, and nonconformist. And so they decide to use ideas from science. And so they decide they'll control the way the whole thing flows. They won't control the answers necessarily, but they will, because they'll control the questions.
Yep.
They'll say, if we give you the questions to think about, you'll come up with our answers, essentially. And one of their things is the narrative that they want all the kids to believe that the universe has no plan or purpose or design behind it. So therefore we need the order. We need the prescribed order, because we got to keep things together. You guys need to have meaning. So we're going to give it to you. It's essentially understanding the communist narrative. You take God out, and so then government and authority, the authorities, which come up over and over in my book, they are the ones that give you meaning, give you structure, give you the reason to get out of bed every morning, so you'll be part of the system and part of the greater people's movement, or whatever they're saying. And so essentially they're setting that kind of structure up. We're going to take the realm of wonder off the table. So therefore all the kids and all the families and the culture will just accept the order. And so Constance's brother Chance, he says, this is stupid because I've been to wonder and I saw how it all started. You see, wonder is a real realm, and the family's learning about it. They don't know. They're on a journey with this whole idea of this transcendence, right? But Chance has experienced some of it, and he's peeked into wonder, and he's actually seen the beginning of the all of it all.
Yeah.
He calls it. He
That's
says,
amazing.
there's geniosity in the all of it all, and I know it, and I can prove it. So he brings back a supernatural science project from wonder to set off a mini Big Bang in front of the whole school, to show them that everything that was needed and necessary for the unfolding of every element and feature of creation was planned, like baking a cake. He says it's like baking a cake. You have to add every single ingredient exactly the way it is, and put it together, and it's going to be a cake. And he said, the universe is like that. He's trying to tell his sister.
And
it's
she's
like
doing
that.
a really good job of his energy in the
Yes,
book.
I
This
love
kid
it. I
Chance
love
is
it.
always like, run
He's
by a
the kid.
motor.
So in my books, there's Constance. She weaves through, but she's pitted and sort of functioning with a brother in each of the books. So
Right.
in book 2, it's her crazy brother Chance, who blows things up just to see how they work. So he's this scientific mind, but he needs chaos
Yes.
to see how to be interested in anything. So he brings back a science project and invades the science fair, but he's got to watch from wonder to go back in time, to compress everything down to time 0, when there was this massive compression of all, so that there could be expansion. And I did a lot of research into how the Bible actually affirms this concept of an expansion of intelligence. Okay.
I love
And
it.
And
and
that is something about the second book, and this one, like I said at the top, is there words and propaganda, and how those things work, which is also a science, but the science that's explored, and the science of creation. The second book is it's written
really
for and
meaty.
understandable by 12 to 14-year-old kids, but it's really meaty in the science.
Yeah, and I always get myself way in over my head. So I'm like, I have no
I can
idea.
relate.
Because then there's all these relationships, because there's a breakup essentially between Constance and her brother Chance. They're
Oh.
alienated in the process. And there's also an overhanging situation with her friend from the first book that betrayed her, and so there's all these things being woven together, and then there's mom and dad, and there's the people behind the scenes, and then there's a new character, Miss Mufflewagner, who shows up in book 3. But to your original point, Ash, the when he wants to prove the genius, he wants people to see and experience this unfolding genius behind the all of it all, this geniosity. He overwinds the Wonder Watch, and
Yeah.
instead of creating an expansion, he
Instead
creates
of
a black
simulating
hole.
the Big Bang creation of the
Yeah.
universe.
And don't ask me how he was going to do it. He was actually going to be able to take them into this and let them actually see everything unfold on some level. I mean, it wasn't, and so he overwinds the Wonder Watch. What could
Yep.
happen? And so there's a compression and a black hole. So then the whole school is spinning around. The town is spinning around a
Oh
black hole.
wow. This sounds
But
amazing. Are they
yeah,
are
and I
they
don't
like
want to wreck it.
warping? Okay. I was
Have to
like, what
wreck it.
happens
So
next?
the thing of it is book 3, something happens.
Yeah, so
Something
hang on. Before you
extraordinary
move on to book 3, K.O. Kelly, $5 Rumble Rant, thank you so much, says, my grandkids love the Wonder Books. We listened to the
Yay.
audiobooks on the drive to church, and their private school library was happy to get a set of the books.
Woo!
Thank you so much, K.O.
Audio
Kelly.
Oh my
books.
gosh. Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
people get so busy they forget to tell authors about
Yeah.
books. So it
Yeah, you
means
want to
that
hear how it's being
you're the
accepted, right?
one. Yeah. So what happens is that this crisis, this existential crisis, could destroy the whole town. Something happens, and and remember, everyone's colorblind. But after this, as we move into book 3, it starts out with book 3, people are beginning to see dashes of color all over town. This
Oh.
the elders are apoplectic now, and
Yeah.
the people who have to serve them and should never have allowed this to happen. How did you people allow these people to begin to see? And the metaphor of seeing color is the metaphor of asking questions and
Mm.
and having revelation and inspiration. So people start to see dashes of color, and Constance is so excited to go to school now because the kids are choosing color.
Yeah.
Maybe it was there all along.
And having bright ideas.
And having bright ideas. That's
Oh, I love
exactly right.
it.
There are bright ideas, and there's the bright side and the gray side. So they have bright ideas or gray ideas. And so they're really having bright ideas. And she's now noticing that people who they probably had color in the back of their closet, but they never wore it and they never wanted it. They were so addicted to the gray. And now people are starting to see color. So now we have a serious problem in Greystone Heights and beyond, because the elders are saying we've got to get control of this. This is going to ruin everything. This is the beginning of an awakening, you see. And so they say they have an authorized ideas manager. And they say, we're going to make you the authorized ideas manager. And here's the deal. We can't tell people they haven't experienced color. They realize this. They'll just tell them what it means. And this is where we're in media. And this is what we experienced. We can't tell you that the red, yellow vest didn't happen, or that there aren't signs of great wickedness happening before you, or that your dollar doesn't buy anything, or we can't tell you haven't
Don't
experienced.
tell what it means yet, because I want to say something before you tell what it means.
Yeah. Well, they said, just say, we're going to interpret for you what you
Yeah.
see all around you is the theme. We can't tell these people that they haven't seen color. We'll tell them what it means. And so they come up with a plot. And this is what sends us off into, I was writing this in 2020. This sends us right
Yeah, you
into,
are.
so did you want me to say what
Yeah,
this?
pause right there. So at the end, because
Pause.
we're going to get into the meat of book 3 now. So at the end of book 2, there's this accidental black hole, and the hole, to everybody sees it, everybody experiences it. You can't wipe that from the collective memory. They all
Right.
went through it. Something supernatural, and we won't spoil that because it's really cool and really important. Something supernatural happens that stops them all from getting sucked into the black hole and kind of puts things back the way that they were. But as a byproduct, the town can start to see color, and the elders. And just so people know, these are animated novels. The elders are like let me find the one where the chick is like
The
melting at the
And they
end.
look
Did it
like
look like
George Soros.
oh,
Here we go.
perfect. See?
Here we go.
That's exactly. Oh, see, that's exactly what I was
Yeah.
imagining.
Yeah. So like these hooded,
see color.
shadowy creatures that are off in a tower that are plotting, and they send their little demon dog things that are called grizzards. They send them down to mess with kids and mess with adults and do their bidding, right? They're kind of like the army that does the bidding of the
They're like
elders and whatnot.
messengers, and
So they're
yeah.
they're freaking out because I always just assumed they were demons. Was I off base there?
Well, no, I mean, it's hard to create different things and have been created before. So
Yeah.
I didn't make them exactly demons, and I didn't make them exactly like Lilo
I'm
and
looking
Stitch.
for a picture of one
Else.
so we can show everybody.
They're messengers, and they have little personalities, and they do the bidding of the elders of the order. Yeah.
Oh, here's another
Mm.
picture of the elders.
Oh my gosh.
That's like the head guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
amazing.
But it's not it's a dystopian, dark, occultic type book at all. That you just,
No.
but there have to be some. If color is a metaphor for truth and understanding, I had to give full color illustrations in a chapter book, which is nobody does that. It's very expensive.
These
to
are
do.
the grizzards. They
There's-
kind of look
Oh,
like Stitch a
wow.
little
Little
bit, you know?
stitches.
Yeah.
I love it.
And they're alluring to the
they're
kids.
adorable until they're
Yeah.
not.
They're adorable until they're not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my illustrations, and the gal who illustrated 1 and 2 was fabulous because she created the characters and set the tone, and then as you know, she passed away, and it was a result of what happened in 2020, the medical intervention. And so but she had to create gray tones and then color tones in these worlds that she illustrated for me, these pages. And you can't make everything just gray, 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 gray. You have to have some something on the spectrum of shade, even in the gray world, as an artistic artistic positioning, right? So she did a magnificent job of creating the gray without just making everything, charcoal. And then, of course, the colors are amazing. But she by book 3, you see, they're so terrified that people are seeing color and asking questions and beginning to awaken, that they tell them that the authorized ideas manager, his job is to use all media to tell them that a plague leaked out of that black hole,
Yep.
and that the symptom of getting the plague is seeing color.
Oh no! Your books are so deep, by the way. The parallels. I've seen
told
so
you,
many
Abby,
people
you're
say
gonna love
Rude
this
Awakening.
story.
It's like identical. Like, it's amazing.
So it's hard because I don't want to be so
Right.
on the nose that you're like, well, that's always that, and but it was hard. You can't not live through what we lived through and not write like this. I couldn't, because they tell everyone in Greystone Heights, you have to wear gray glasses on your face at all times to protect you from seeing even a speck of color, or you could die.
Oh.
So that
That's amazing.
I don't have I have only television, radio, maybe a dialing phone. This is not, they're non, technical, my books, because I don't want technology to drive the story. And I want I want to give them a collective memory of what the world was like without all the stuff now that we're surrounded
Yes.
technologically. So but the radio and the media and the billboards and the newspapers are just, black hole plague comes to Greystone Heights. Color can kill you. Wear your glasses. And the Folsoms wake up one day when everyone around them is wearing gray glasses. And then you can
All the
see
signs.
Constance is running home. And even though this is what's interesting about book 3. She's lived color. She grew up in color.
Yeah.
She knows that that has to do with wonder. And yet when she's in that environment, completely and utterly surrounded by the media voices, she becomes afraid of seeing color.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that is what happened to many of us, because in our gut, in our heart, we knew, how could this be? Why
Yep.
would this? And yet day after day after day of beating us up with the central narrative of fear and control and the plague, how many of us thought, we're crazy, we're nuts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I will die. Maybe I will kill grandma if we don't stick her somewhere in a building and keep her far away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And maybe I could hurt somebody if I go to Walmart without the gray glasses on, so Constance then begins to represent the struggle within the families of the people who are now under the control of the media and the people who are not and who are questioning. So even within this very close-knit, loving family, there's a split.
Yeah.
And this is where Charleston emerges. He's the nerdy brother. Can you hold up the cover? He reads the dictionary just for fun. See, that's a dictionary, and the full color, that's a prism he's holding up that shows the 7-colored rainbow, which is distinct from the 6-color political one, right? The
Oh.
7-color rainbow includes the color indigo, which is a cross between green, purple and blue, which is a very mysterious color.
It's a very important color.
It's a very important color, and there's so much mystery in that, right? And so Charleston, yeah, the nerd, he realizes from the beginning that words can change the world, and this is his premise, and he sees it, and he starts thinking about this even before the crisis happens. So
Yeah, so we meet him in the beginning of the story, and he's reading his dictionary. And when he leaves the house, he's got one in his pocket. He's got a pocket
all the
dictionary,
time,
but he
all the
really
time.
likes his big one that he has at home. And
Right.
he figures out, and this is Kay, there's no spoilers in this, but he figures out that words have the power. That it's the power of the words, that essentially the power of the ideas is what's controlling their reality. And that's very fascinating and exciting to him. And he decides to dig into it more and learn more about it. Meanwhile, Constance goes to school, and it takes one day of her going to school with all of the teachers' voices, the administrators' voices, her friends' voices, put the glasses on your face and don't ask questions and don't take them off. Don't you dare take them off. One day she walks home, the signs are all erected, the billboards and the newspapers are carrying it. Be afraid. If you see color, you're probably going to get the plague. If you're seeing color, you're probably going to get sick. You might die.
Yeah.
And she's terrified. And that happened in 2020. As soon as the government was like, there's this deadly pandemic, and then they showed us a bunch of pictures of Chinese people foaming at the mouth and dropping dead in the street and being carted off into vans. And I was one of the people that was like, no. It's an election year, and I know I don't trust the government, and you guys are doing this for power and control. And I was telling my parents that this is about power and control at the very beginning of the pandemic. And my mom's immune compromised, right? Like my mom has almost died a whole bunch of times.
Right.
And they were afraid. They were very, and old people, elderly people especially, were, they're more vulnerable to disease and sickness when it's going around. And there was real concern. Well, the whole of institutions wouldn't mislead us. All the experts, you're saying all the experts
Right.
are misleading us about the science of COVID. Of course, we have to stay home. Of course, if you stay home, you'll save a life. Right. And that was that, like, I related to the rest of the Folsom family, not Constance in this one. It was reversed in kind of the other two books, but because she was so instantly overtaken by the fear, and everybody in the society except for the family and a couple other people were overtaken by this fear, because the authorities, and I love how you call them the authorities, right? Like in the book, they're the authority, and the authorities say that if you can see color, then you're probably going to get the plague, and it's real possible that you could die, but also you could give it to all of us and you're really dangerous. They had just experienced color. They had just, with the whole black hole thing, they were having all these ideas and they were excited and they were exchanging them. And it took this centralized narrative deployment of fear to whip them right into shape. That was, if we hadn't lived through the pandemic, it wouldn't have seemed realistic, but it was almost nostalgic reading what happened to these, in this story.
Hard to write. Yeah. I didn't know if they'd be okay. I didn't know if we'd be okay. I didn't know if they'd be okay. All I knew was that I had to write this thing. And it's any system that is a system of abusive control will always make the person who wakes up to question it feel like they're the one with the problem. Yeah. And this is what you experience when you're in an alcoholic setting, and or a family member, or there's serious dysfunction, and you begin to wake up and ask questions. There's a deep, and having been through something like that, there's a deep thing that rises up in you that says, what if I'm wrong? What if I blow up the system and I hurt the people around me because I won't conform anymore? What if? It's a huge burden. And the Folsoms have to stay connected to wonder to get through this. And Charleston is the nerd, and he realizes there's something wrong. So he goes and he researches, what are plagues? Could a plague
and he's 8.
He's yeah. Could he come? Yeah, I love those kids. Could a plague come out of a black hole? What's a black hole? How does it work? How does infectious disease work? How would you? He goes, and he says, this is so stupid. If you were going to be protected from some sort of infectious, weapon or biological, thing, you'd have to live in a bubble. Yep. There's nothing you could slap on your face that would protect you from that. And they're just surrounded by this media. And so he decides, and he's trying to talk to his sister, and she's going, but the authorities. And it's the classic also thing that people go through when kids go out into the larger realm. And if you are a non-conforming family, which is we better be.
Yeah.
So conform.
Yeah. I mean, where I live, that means, like, if you're a non-conforming family, it means that you won't cut your children's genitals off. So it's important to be non-conforming and non-mutilated.
There are assumptions that we make about, well, in my world, say something simple. Well, I went to prom and it didn't bother me. I was out fine. Everybody goes to prom. Okay, that sounds silly. But when our kids were doing that, we're like, not that prom, not that stuff, not that, no crowd. No, not that, not all those we questioned every societal norm, every single one, and said, why Disney? Why should I let my kids watch that? Yeah. Why? Everybody is. Why do I have to go to, why do my kids don't need to go to the movies with everybody else and do all the things? and the non-conforming ideas that say, why is this a thing? And the only reason we were able to think like that is because of wonder, because there was something better and higher and more ennobling and true and spiritual and all those things. And so they're wrestling. Will they stay connected to what they know is true? And now their daughter, their precious daughter, thinks they're nuts. and Charleston is trying to speak to her. Is this not what we went through? Is this not what kids went through and experienced? And we can't memory hole this. We must not memory hole this horrendous, ghoulish experience. We must, somebody's going to tell kids what that means or what that meant. And they tried and they already did. But somebody's got to tell the truth story of what happened to us in the 21st century. And I want it to be me, because the truth is that thinking and asking questions and being different and interacting with higher realms. Of course, I'm a Christian and all that. Okay. But I write in a way to bring people on a journey, because there people begin to experience the transcendent in beautiful ways as when they begin to see dashes of color.
Yeah.
To see
All
the
right.
shades, right?
So pause there. I want to ask everybody to please hit the thumbs up button on the show. Helps us out quite a bit. We certainly do appreciate it. Wherever you're watching us, please hit the like button. Very important. I want to shift. Oh, I also want to say, everybody, please pray for Crane Up. He was supposed to have surgery today. I'm seeing in the chat, apparently there were potentially some complications. He's a great friend of Badlands, and I consider him a friend as well. And I would ask that everybody keep him in your prayers. All right. I want to shift and talk about some of the themes and the devices that you're using in this. I want to try to avoid as many, spoilers, because we do have folks that are reading the books in the chat, and Kay's like, please no spoilers.
No spoilers.
But I will, I don't think this is a spoiler because it's like chapter 3, but when Charleston's response to this, so he figures out before any of the plague happens, the pandemic happens. He figures out that words are really important, and words are how they're keeping everybody else from, having what the Folsoms have, in a sense, right? That they're using words and language and fear to subjugate people. Then this pandemic thing happens, and his response is, we got to start a newspaper. We got to start a new media company. We got to tell people the truth and get the truth out to the people. And I loved that angle of this story, because it wasn't just that the black hole made them see color and then the gray glasses made it go away. They're still getting bits of color here and there. And as this newspaper comes out, they're like, oh yeah, that did happen to us. We did go through that thing. And they start to see a little color again, and they start to have some bright ideas again. And the regime is freaking all the way out about it. Tell us about like writing that and what you're kind of thinking, because you pull in the central narrative and the use of emotion to subjugate people, but the words that are used. And as I say, every time we talk about your books, the vocabulary in your books is so great for kids, because you give them the words, big words that they might not have heard before, but you also define them for them. And so, yeah, take it away.
Well, there are 3 brothers. Costas has 3 brothers. So one of the things that's super fun is, we have the chaos agent Chance, who's just always in the scene to complicate things, but in a darling way. And then we have Charleston, the thinker, the cello player, the dictionary reader, the rational one. And then we have little Chief, and he's the baby boss, of the families, 4. And he wants to be in the middle of everything. So when Charleston is sharing an idea about what is a dissident, little Chief is in the room, trying to pronounce it and trying to say it, and usually wrong in his pronunciation. And the family together, sometimes Charleston will pull out his dictionary and explain, well, that's what this, but sometimes the family is saying, well, this is how it works. This is how, and so they have a culture of unpacking ideas together and unpacking words together and figuring out how it affects them. And that really plays out big time in books 4 and 5, which I'm hoping to get printed soon. And because we move from the crisis of the glasses into the crisis of, well, we're really going to protect you big time in book 4. We're really going to make sure, these glasses are temporary. They could fall off your face.
Oh
What if
no.
Oh no, it's the next
what if we do
level.
something to really protect you
Oh
biologically,
no.
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
How do we
I-
biologically protect you from ever seeing color again? Because that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing. The elders of the order are determined that they want to take control of people's ability to see, that they'll do anything, even biologically, to keep people from ever seeing color again. And whether they will go along with that, and what could the consequences be for some people if they allow themselves to be subjected in this way. I don't hide anything. These are not like your Nana's playbook stories. These are what we went through, but I never doom. You tell me, Ashe, are you ever doomed in these books?
No. There's
No.
suspense.
Yeah.
There's definitely suspense at times, and the second one was a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it's resolved in the third one.
Well, and then we open up other things that
Yeah.
we have to
Now
wait
there's
to
new
see what
cliffhangers at the end of the
there's
third
new-
one.
Exactly. But this whole thing, we cannot allow people to see color.
Yeah.
Color changes you. The color changes the brain. Color changes the experience. So we can't allow, and think of the metaphor of that. We cannot allow people to see, to think, to experience, to feel something other than what we've determined they'll feel and think and see and experience about any given thing. This is the authorized ideas manager. We get this
Yeah.
now, this idea.
Oh,
Those ideas are not authorized, you see. And that and I use capitals, like when I'm talking about the regime, it's like
Yeah.
the capital authorities, capital authorized, boom. And because what we experienced was so heavy-handed,
Yeah.
and it is heavy-handed. Manipulation is always heavy-handed, even if it comes in velvet gloves, right? And so that even the capitalization of certain words, and the fact that wonder is always italicized and it's always a capital W,
Mhm.
because wonder is a noun and a verb and a realm and a reference
oh wow.
Yeah.
to what is transcendent and beautiful and true beyond our human ability to control. And so all of these things are moving together, and Constance comes unglued when her brother creates the newspaper,
Yeah. Yeah,
because
she
now
speaks her mind. But you know
because
what's
her
interesting about
family
your
is now in big trouble for being openly
stop spoiling.
disobedient.
No, no spoilers. But but the oh shoot. This is you've created a universe that is, there's sort of a fantastical element to it. There's a supernatural realm. They interact with the supernatural realm in all 3 books. And that's a part of the nature of their reality. But there's also it's very real, right? In terms of so for example, the people are seeing color. They need to make sure that people aren't engaging with the unauthorized ideas. They need to get everybody back on track. So what do? Well, they get the experts together and they get everybody into a mandatory assembly, and they have to sit through this presentation of here's what the science says, and how dare you question us.
Mhm.
How dare you question the science? You are an 8-year-old kid. Are you really questioning all of the experts? Right. And it's there. That's, it's a very exaggerated example in a fictional universe, but that's exactly what they did to us. It was, when that didn't work, then we got the Ministry of Truth and the Disinformation Governance Board and the heavy hand of censorship online. Now, in the books, these kids aren't online. There's no online, right? That's not a thing in the books. But But it's an escalating force. As the regime is losing its control, they're escalating their attacks on the people, and that's very real, and it comes to life in a very real way in the book. So the name of this book is Constance Charleston and the Bombastic Bafflegab. Julie, talk a little bit about Bombastic Bafflegab.
Well, it's so funny. When I write books, I get titles before anything else.
I love it.
So I had no idea, honestly, I had no idea what was. I knew at the end of book 2 that things were going to shift in town, and the color bits were going to be, visible to some people. But I really didn't know a whole lot more than that. And then the idea, I had Constance, and then I had Constance and Chance, and the Big Bang was Constance and the Battle for Wonder.
Mhm.
Constance and Chance and the Big Bang Backlash. Well, now we're in alliteration. Now I'm stuck now with all the B's. We got to go with the B's. And now at Constance and Charleston and the Bombastic Bafflegab was like, the B's were kind of coming together. Well, when you look at the word bombastic, it is that overwhelming kind of loud, forceful person who's bombastic and will have their personality expressed in the meeting, right?
Yep.
And Bafflegab is a lot of words that just are meant to obfuscate.
It's misinformation.
Well, bombastic
It's
Bafflegab
different.
is propaganda.
Bafflegab is disinformation, because disinformation is misinformation with the intent to deceive.
There you go.
Mhm. But that's it's. And when he figures that out, he's like, they're telling us this story because they're trying to deceive us. They're trying to lie to us.
Right.
And of
So,
course, a kid would get there before an adult.
well, and this is the idea. It's a book about propaganda and how
Mhm.
propaganda works. And so bombastic bafflegab is fabulous words to describe propaganda. 2 words
Mhm.
that say that. And so, and I think kids love words, and they love being bright, and they love trying to wrap their minds around them, especially if it's unfolded before them and the words don't get in the way of the story because they want to know what's happening next, right?
Mhm.
So in the book, what I love also about this book is that the kids have a lot of agency. Adults aren't running in to rescue the kids in my book. The parents are there. They have a wonderful mother-father dynamic together in the family. You have to reteach some of these structures now, just culturally, right? To say, hello, do you remember a time when
Oh,
you
I
could
love
see
that.
families express this way? Do you remember a time when there wasn't a phone in anybody's hand? Could you think of that? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine a kid starting a newspaper with, and just with good old fashioned newsprint, and kids coming in and writing stories, and all those things that you take for granted now become almost a fantasy for children to go
Yeah.
back into and go, wow, can you imagine a time where you walk down the street and somebody in Deadwood might shoot someone? You know what I mean? Like I'm reenacting life before
Mm.
org, in these books. And I feel a responsibility to pass on a collective memory, a collect of a different time and era,
Yeah.
and also what we learned from living this way versus being technologically manipulated, right? And so in the book, some of the kids gather to wrestle with these things, and they also have a friend named Karen who
No,
wears two
not Karen.
pairs of glasses at all times to be
She wears
absolutely
2 pairs, yeah.
clear to make sure she
And
doesn't
she's a narc.
and she's an arc. And I had so much fun with it, writing that. And
Yeah.
I just, you see, somebody has to tell the story. Somebody has to tell the story. What happened? How did it happen? What did it feel like? What were the experiences? What were the dynamics? We must not allow this to be set aside because it was so traumatic. It has to
Yeah,
be
you're
brought.
actually teeing up Bob Buffiu. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I apologize for getting it wrong. But it gave us a Rumba rant that says, and I believe he's talking about 2020 and COVID. If we don't get accountability, the next time it will be worse. And
there
this is where we
was a
go
big,
when we go well. Thank you for the rant.
exactly.
Yeah,
This is
thank
a big
you.
test. We're going to see how far we can run with these concepts, with these controls, with this manipulation. And I, for one, was utterly taken aback and shocked and dismayed by how far they got.
Oh, same
I
here.
honestly thought that
Yeah.
that people of faith would say, no, you're not closing my church down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was the most
I mean,
disappointing.
that was utterly, that was such a wake up call to me. I mean,
I mean, we were
personally,
getting a taste of like the concept of like a global control where you cannot go into that grocery store unless you wear a mask, and so you can't get food unless you do what we want. Like that's insane, and we lived that.
yeah,
I
we did.
lived that in this
And
small little
yeah,
town.
it's
It's
like
like
when somebody says, "What would it? What maybe meet an old lady? You were on the Titanic? Wow, what was it like when they got you into the boat? Who died? What? Tell me about that iceberg.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is the Titanic moment we've lived through, and either we're capsizing or we're getting the heck out of that situation and onto a different boat,
Yeah.
you know, and going a different direction. And so we have to have this conversation. We have to be able to communicate it. But with fantasy and with fiction, you can project it far enough out into another world that we don't have to hurt again in the same way. I mean, Ash, did you experience this book as a way to process some of these things and feelings in a redemptive way, and in a
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there was a nostalgia watching the characters respond to the plague but really respond to the propaganda, respond to the story that they were being told, that if you don't do exactly what we say, then you're going to get sick and you're probably going to die. But worse, you're going to make us sick. And so it was that same dynamic. We lived that. What the characters in this book went through was when you said I was writing this in 2020, and I'm like, yeah, you were, because it was it is nostalgic about what we went through. And I say that because I was the dissident. I didn't comply. I wore a mask if I had to fly, and I flew way less because
yeah,
I didn't want to put up with, any of that. And I wore a mask to go to the hospital because you had to. They wouldn't let you in without it, and my mother-in-law was in there.
yeah.
And so, but aside from that, I didn't wear it in the grocery store. I didn't wear it in retail shops. I was denied service a bunch of places. I was called the C word by a little old lady in the grocery store because I wasn't wearing a mask as she walked by me, and she was like double masked, and
But
that
Ash, you were
was
gonna kill her.
no, but I took great pride. Like, this is something that Patrick and I would talk about, our pandemic stories. He and I were very much the same way. He was probably a little further along the angsty anger curve because he was out looking for a fight in code. He
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
carrying somebody. Yeah. But I was proud to be a dissident because I did not believe them, and their science didn't make sense, and the 6-foot thing didn't make sense, and the lockdowns didn't make sense. The don't go outside and get sunlight didn't make sense. The hospital protocol didn't make sense. And I have a lot of friends and family that are in the medical profession, and before this turned into like the mass psychosis went all political, they were talking about what they were seeing, and this illness was weird, and it was doing weird things to the
and what
lung
happened to the
tissue.
flu?
What happened to the flu? But there were like iron deposits in the lung tissue, and smokers were doing better than non-smokers, and that's weird. What's that about? And I would ask them questions and everything, and as soon as it became that mass psychosis of we're all gonna freaking die, they stopped talking to me. Not like about everything. We're talking about some family members, right? But wouldn't answer questions about the pandemic anymore. Wouldn't answer questions about what they were seeing in the hospitals anymore, because it was, the narrative was too important. People questioning the narrative was dangerous. And if people that are questioning the narrative, you need to stop that. You need to stop them. You need to shut them down on it. And if you can't, then you need to not talk to them about it anymore, because these are very dangerous ideas. And I'm with you, Julie. I was shocked at how far it went. I was in the Tea Party, and never in my wildest Tea Party dreams did I think that the American people would allow the government to encroach that far
Right.
and outright use force.
Yeah.
People removed from beaches, people, actual government force used against them because of non-compliance. Tina Peters, one of her greatest crimes, and Trump was true socialing about her today. Let's go. What the premise, the way they got her on, however many, seven convictions, I think up to 9 years, is because she violated COVID-19 emergency rules that were created by Jenna Griswold. That was what set the conditions for there to be restricted access into that room, because without those conditions, she's the duly elected clerk. She can have anybody in there that she wants. But because of Jenna Griswold's COVID-19 emergency rules that said that only official people that are on, that are, official employees can be there, that set the conditions for why Tina Peters, broke the law. And they cobbled together STEM statutory violations and these COVID-19 emergency rules to put together to say that she broke the law 9 times or however many. It was like 13, and then it was 11. I think it was eventually 8, if I'm not
They
mistaken.
stacked it on there.
Yeah.
It was stupid.
But it was all ridiculous. They actually had to qualify a member of the Secretary of State's office as an expert witness to expertly testify as to how arbitrary rule violations can come together to break the law. It was the most ridiculous thing in that courtroom. But the conditions on the ground of the emergency rules, that people dealt with that all over the country. These arbitrary mandates handed down by tyrants. Gretchen Whitmer telling people they can't go to Walmart and buy seeds. You can't be in your garden because that's a danger for a virus. What?
That's like probably the safest place you can be.
Yeah.
And
the kids deal with that kind of in this as well, because they dig, as Julie says, they dig into the science, and one of the first things they're like, a plague can't escape from a black hole, and certainly seeing color isn't a symptom of anything, right? But the people don't believe them when they fact check the science.
In the book, several things that I want to highlight. One of the things that I really enjoyed writing about was the emotional and intellectual, spiritual journey of a main character, what they're going through, how this is affecting them and their relationships. And very often kids they're burden bearers, and they're carrying the burdens for their family. So in my book, I write a lot about the kinds of burdens and psychological burdens children carry. And Constance has a dream where she's so confused and again burdened by what's going on with her family and what she's hearing here and there. And Charleston's working it out, and he's wondering, what his role is in all this. And guess what? The Folsoms, the order officers show up to stop this paper, and the kid behind the paper, oh, what could go wrong if the order officers haul your kids off for not complying? These are the kinds of things that we face in the future or hauling parents off because they won't comply with having their children biologically altered.
Yeah.
The order officers showing up at your door. So I don't shy away from these realities, but again, I try to project it out into this other world, and that they're very witty, they're very funny. A lot of what the kids learn about how crazy these ideas are is through humor. They're like, can you believe how weird that is, how dumb that is? So there's that, and the way they react to each other. So they're working, these families are working these things through. The mom and dad have a reaction, and the kids have a reaction. Constance it's hard to wake up and realize Constance is that alienated when she knows the truth on some level, right? But that's what happened, right? And in the books, one of the things that was so glorious is the ending, and I won't tell it to you, but something happens that I wish we would have seen in 2020. That I could, if I could go back and dream of how the children would respond, and but this is why I'm writing, because they must respond this way in the future. We must tell these stories. This is not just for fun. This is not just so I can have something to do with my life. I have a mission to tell the truth story of what has happened to us in the 21st century. And by the time I get to book 10, I
Woo-hoo.
will have unfolded some of the deepest and most searing issues of our time
Yeah.
on every level. I'm not going to hold back.
And
Wow.
it's for 12 to 14-year-old kids and
Right.
advanced.
Now,
I
that'll
think
be 12
advanced
to
readers
14.
that were, if advanced reader, a little bit younger, but advanced readers, I think they'd probably be good with the books too.
Yeah, but it's best in a family read-along situation. And if you go to the Quest for Wonder, well, no, badlandsmedia.tv/wonder, right? Like it says on your screen, you're going to get book 1 free. But if you pay me shipping and handling, so I'm not
Ooh.
get book 1 free for shipping and handling, and a free audio book. And why? Because like you said, one of your audience members said, my daughter loves it, or my kids are reading it and we're listening together. Because very often it's in the auditory experience in the car that the conversations come up. Now, we want our kids reading. We want parents reading to kids. We need the reading. The audiobook is a bonus to just because why not? Why not?
Yeah.
It is nice.
And
I'm not gonna
some
lie.
people learn that way. Some people are audio learners. Some people are
Right, so
visual learners. Yeah.
But you can't get these anywhere else. Imagine if I even tried, once the word gets out about these, it'd be banned, so why even try Amazon?
Yeah.
I don't care about Amazon. They give authors such a small fraction anyway of the value of their books.
That
But
is really important for people to understand. Is Julie is self-published, and these books are gorgeous. The illustrations are gorgeous. They're well made. They're well constructed. They will last. If you buy a set of these books, they will last. They're very well made, and they're great stories that like you said, the pandemic story, the plague story in this book is it's a little piece of history almost
it is
told in a fictional sense. So you'll read these books with your kids and then probably with your grandkids eventually as well.
They're going to be the kind of books 20, 30 years from now, people are going to go, oh my gosh, she's telling what happened.
Yes.
And so what I wanted to highlight was you're not going to get them anywhere else except for if you go to this link. But I'm offering book 1 for free with shipping and handling with that bonus. But then you really have to stay on the site and get books 2 and 3, because this is where we really start getting into the meat of this thing. And again, 4 and 5 are going to completely blow your mind, because by book 5, I'm taking on the World Economic Forum. Because the escalation of tyranny doesn't go back in the box, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean? And what the attempt is, and how, and what's interesting is about these books is that I'm living it. We're living it. So in writing this, I had to really have from wonder, from heaven, reality solutions.
Yeah.
It's not just a flaky idea that if you think positively, you can overcome, George Soros and Klaus Schwab. Just think positive thoughts. My gosh. Well, walk on the bright side. They tried to kill us, people.
Yeah.
And who's going to tell the kids? You can't not tell the kids the truth. There's certain things that you can't avoid having a conversation with your kids about. For example, the dog gets run over. You don't not tell the kids.
Oh, not Cornelius.
I
was like, in the book, is this a
no,
Oh my God. I'm like, okay, you're a book that hasn't even been put out yet.
No, I'm saying in life, in your life, my life. No, I don't know. Cornelius never gets run over.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
God.
But that's the name of the dog in the books. In our lives, there's certain things that cannot be avoided in discussion. Right? If your dog got run over, if your grandma died, if God forbid your mom and I are getting a divorce, these kind of things, your dad and I, you just don't pretend that didn't happen.
Right.
So the reality is they are trying to kill us.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a big question. The they, who's the they, why would they do it?
Them.
But who's going to tell the kids this? Nobody wants to tell the kids, but we don't have a future. Badlands doesn't have a future. We don't, nobody has a future without the kids.
Yeah.
We don't. So we can sit here and talk and understand and parse it and figure it out. If our children do not have a grand, true, powerful, ennobling, and courageous narrative to live out of, we will not make it into the next
Right.
awakening.
It's just going
right?
to keep repeating.
But
Well,
we are in an awakening, and they're central to it. And I'm actually really excited about the future. And I have great reason to be excited, and so do the children.
Yeah.
But by ignoring what happened, that is not a way to move forward. Right.
Well, that's just one thing I wanted to say about that. So, like, not ignoring something that I've been doing in my life, having to get through trauma and things that have happened to me in the past. You do have to address them, and that's the hard part. And I haven't read your books yet, but it seems like, based on what you've been describing, is that you're going to revisit that trauma, but you're revisiting it in a different way. So, like in a storybook form. So you're going through it. And as far as trauma goes, like people that want to break, it's called trauma bonds. You have to revisit it, and you have to admit, this happened to me. I was abused. We all were abused during the pandemic, the plandemic, right? So I feel like this is a great way to tell the story, but again, not like boom in your face, but it's the narrative. And that's beautiful.
Soft landing. It's such a soft landing.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm not a dystopian writer. I can express dystopia. I can talk about it because this is the reality. And kids' books are really gritty these days.
Yeah.
Starting especially, by the way, the first 5 books in the series are 10 to 14 age. As I go up through 6 through 10, it will be more of a YA experience for those older kids moving into high school. And I will never ever violate the conscience or the innocence of children when I write about these things, because there's a way to write that conveys the ideas behind the unhealthy and ungodly and tyrannical,
Absolutely.
structures by teaching them concepts. And my hope is, and I believe it's true, and I've seen it, that once you get a concept, then you can see when they're doing it to you again. It's like, oh, well, now I don't see, now I see a Ukrainian flag everywhere.
Yeah. It's like that meme with the NPCs where they like take the one chip out of their brain and put the new one. And we are out of time. Baseless Conspiracies is up next. We have a couple more Rumble Rants. K.O. Relly, not to brag, but I've been escorted out of the finest establishments in Las Vegas.
Woo!
I think she's referring back to the
Good
pandemic
awesome.
time, but also I met Kay in Vegas, and she's a little spicy, so that might have broader application as well. Whiskey Tango 44. There are several subtle elements in in the book description that trigger my PTSD from a narcissistic boss. Seriously, bombastic bafflegab, so rich in meaning beyond the teenage target. I love it. And I love it as well. The only place to get the books is badlandsmedia.tv/wonder. That takes you to Julie's site. And as she said, there's other resources that are on there.
Study guides, if you want study guides.
Study guides and ways to engage. It is a battle of the mind for the soul. And one of the things I love about this book, the book series, is that the characters all go through their journeys, but so much of it is about unlocking their brains and getting past the fear, or getting past the, there's other kind of barriers, mental barriers that are involved. Last words to both of you before we get out of here.
Well, I just know I need to read the book now.
You're gonna love them. I know you're gonna love them.
That's my next to read book.
They will not re-traumatize us. They will wonderize us. As I said, I'm the red-pilled Mary Poppins. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've got that spoonful of wonder to help these things go down in a way that is redemptive. And look, they have to be just darn good stories too, or who cares what I think, or what, you know what I mean? And I think we achieved some good storytelling. Would you agree, Ashe?
100%. 100%. I really, really enjoy them. Badlandsmedia.tv/wonder for the amazing series by Julie Lavender. Absolutely fantastic, Julie. We love having you. Thanks so much for coming back.
Thank you.
And we're going to get out of here. We'll head over to Baseless Conspiracies. I am going to raid the show. I know some people don't like that. So I'm telling you, I'm going to raid the show. If you're watching on replay, you probably won't hear me. But unfortunately, it is how it works. But if you're watching us on replay and you'd like to support the show, you can head over to badlandsmedia.tv/boost. And Abby and I will read your boosts at the beginning of next week's show. We will be back next week at 7 for me, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I hate time zones.
Right.
For Culture of Change. Thank you, ladies. Absolute honor and pleasure. And everybody, we will see you next time.
See you guys.
As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for. In my former life, I was an insider as much as anybody else. And I knew what it's like, and I still know what it's like to be an insider. It's not bad. Not bad. Now I'm being punished for leaving the special club and revealing to you the terrible things that are going on having to do with our country. Because I used to be part of the club, I'm the only one that can fix it. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Because you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to take us out. And it's not going to work. Not going to work. Not going to work. It's not going to work. We're just getting started.
The drug cartels are waging war in America, and we will destroy the cartels. You have no choice. That's an army. And I'll use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries immediately. Never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom, because I will never let them take away your freedom. I won't. They want to silence me, because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they are not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in their way. I always will. And I will fully protect and uphold our great and very important under siege Second Amendment. We will protect. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech, and I will secure our elections. We will secure our elections. If we don't, we are a country in trouble. Our goal will be one day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. Very simple. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school at all, pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate.
When I was coming down the escalator with Melania, I was already under investigation because they saw how well I was doing in the polls. And it just got worse and worse. And we caught them. We said they were spying on our campaign. It turned out to be true. They had the fake dossier. That turned out to be true. It was paid for by the Democrat Party. It was all fiction. All of these things happened. Impeachment hoax number one, impeachment hoax number two. I've been treated very badly. And I've won every single time. When you say, do I sleep? I sleep. I sleep. Because I truly feel that in the end, we're going to win. I think we're going to win an election the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. I don't think anything's going to stop it. Nothing's going to stop it.